the Zach Tom situation is a very interesting one. Matt Schneidman from The Athletic was taking the angle of he could have skipped the OTAs and waited for a contract extension. I took the angle of you told this guy that he's competing for his job. I've been to 2 practices. No one else has taken a single rep at right tackle. So what's the deal, right?
What's the deal with that?
So I just wanted a clear answer on where Zach Tom is at, because he called him the right tackle. He was talking about his versatility and that he just sort of landed a right tackle, but I wanted an answer to where Zach Tom stands. So I followed up after our little fun exchange with this.
Yeah, I think that's a plan, absolutely. That's where he's kind of found his home, but I think what's great about him is if you do have something that happens, it just gives you some flexibility up front, and we're always looking for guys like that, and I think our guys do a really good job, not only from a scouting department, finding players that have that versatility, but also I think our coaches do a pretty good job of cross-training those guys so that they can go in there and play. And I think as a whole, I think Zach's in a lot better space physically than he was a year ago. I mean, it's tough when you're rehabbing to get stronger and faster and in better shape. It's another thing to be out there and you're practicing and doing all the drill work, and you can really focus in the weight room at making those gains. So I think as a whole, though, I think our football team is in a much better spot than we were a year ago as well.
So he's talking about right tackle being the place where he's found a home. I don't think they're going to keep up this charade, Tausch. You called it out when I told you about it last week or a couple weeks ago when Steno said it. I think this is put to bed in my mind. He's not going anywhere. I still don't understand why they said it the way they did, other than to make sure that they were playing a little bit of hardball with his contract negotiation. That's the only possibility I can think of.
Yeah, that is what I kind of thought in the beginning of it, because to me, I think where some other reporters maybe are looking at this from a contract holdout, I'm sure Zach Tom's representatives have had these conversations with Russ that they want a new deal. And by the way, the Packers should want to have a new deal with him.
Yes, agreed.
You just saw what, when J.J. Watt was on McAfee talking about T.J. Watt. The Packers, for as much as they now kind of kick the can down the road and are a lot more stringent on giving out even second deals, and your quote that you kept coming back to about Goody is fascinating, and I think something you should look at. Zach Tom is one of your core players. You identify a core player early. You sign them long-term, Elgton Jenkins. You can go through a list of guys that they've done this with already, and you get them at a better rate, and you keep them happy, and that's how you build that teamsmanship, that we're in this together. When you're forcing guys to consistently prove it, and there's no risk on the table for them, there becomes some semblance of resentment. And I don't know what's going to happen here. If Zach Tom doesn't get a new deal, what do you think will happen next year? Do you think he's going to say, well, I just love it in Green Bay, and I'm going to play here for less, and I just love being here? Or is he going to look at it as being a mercenary?
Right.
That's kind of where this goes. And Green Bay has every right to play it out, and they can franchise tag him, and they can do that. Or you could look at it and say, I think he's a really good player. I want him on this team for a long time. And if you sign him now, you'll sign him for a lot less than you will next year at this time, unless obviously something bad happens, and that's the risk that the player takes. But Zach Tom, that was never – and maybe I'll be proven wrong and he's going to be the swing tackle and Anthony Belton or somebody else is going to be playing right tackle and Sheet. He's going to be starting somewhere. Now, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, and I'm fine with that. I like debating things. You could look at this and say, well, I remember when Rob Domofsky was on Wilde Tausch last summer. And I think he talked to somebody, whether it was over a Coors Light or a Tito's
Couple
or
of
something.
people. He said 2 people said this to him.
He did. He said that they believe Zach Tom could be an All-Pro center.
No.
They even said
Hall of Fame center.
which is bold. That's very bold.
Much more bold than what he would say.
When you hear that and you start piecing together why certain conversation topics come up, because let's be honest, this was something that didn't need to ever be brought up. Nobody would have asked you, is Zach Tom in a right tackle battle? Because nobody would have thought it. Steno brought it up.
Correct.
So if you want to conspiracy theorize it, we're not going to do anything with Elgton Jenkins. If Elgton Jenkins wants to play hardball with us, hey, Zach, swing on down. Sheed goes over to right tackle. Jordan Morgan goes to left tackle, and we figure it out. That would be the other option that you could look at. Mm-hmm. Is it the best option? It is not. Is it something that I'm sure Green Bay, when they're kind of mixing their puzzle pieces together, are saying, well, if this is how it's going to go, this is an option? Because those conversations happen all the time.
And we don't know what the future holds for Elgton Jenkins. He is still not attending the voluntary portion of the off-season program. Will he report to the mandatory minicamp? I would think so, right? He doesn't want to get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. But if he doesn't get anything straightened out on his contract, he could play next year, this season, 2025, and then they could decide, we're not going to give him a third contract, and he's got a $26 million cap number for 2026 or whatever it is. Thank you for your service. You could always move Zach Tom to center then, and then you could play Anthony Belton at right tackle. So maybe Zach Tom would also like a contract extension before he gets moved, and we discussed this earlier in the week, to the lowest paying position on the offensive line despite its importance. Like, it just feels like there's a lot of moving pieces there on the offensive line, both now in real time and we talked to Zach about this as well. He said Rasheed Walker and Sean Ryan are 2 of his best friends in the world. And all 3 of them are in their contract years. And they know that not all 3 of them are getting re-signed. So they're taking the approach of, hey, this is our last dance, if you will, together.
Oh,
so,
I love The Last Dance. What a great show. Man, what is Rodgers and Devontae had one. Jordan and the boys from the Bulls had one. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how things shake out not only this year, but then moving forward, because it does feel like one of the strengths over the years, going back to your era and even before that, is that, yeah, there were seasons where guys got hurt. Like you and Cliffy in 2002 and Flanagan having to go out and play left tackle and everything else. But one of the strengths of Green Bay Packers football had always been such a consistency on the offensive line. And yes, guys came and went, but you kept groups together for extended periods. And I'm curious to see if that's still a priority or not.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Kent Korth on YT put
YouTube.
Up on the Carbless Talk and Text line beautifully by Riley is, why did the Packers pay Aaron Banks so much money? This isn't even somebody Goody drafted. This is a great point. And this is something every locker room has to deal with, and why Ted and I believe a lot of general managers are very skeptical to do this a bunch is because this sends waves through your locker room. Mm-hmm. And I saw it with Joe Johnson back in the early 2000s. You could see there was some angst amongst other defensive linemen. I'm not going to get into whose names that might be, but you could take a vacation and probably figure that part of it out. I just look at and you say, when you do that, you're setting the bar and saying, first off, we need to improve this spot. And wow, are we going to pay big money to do it? And then Elgton Jenkins is looking at saying, I don't have any guaranteed money left. You could sprinkle me something. And they're saying, well, no, we want to play it out. There does become, and you don't want to have a room with resentment. Guys are going to be pros. But it goes back to my thought on who do you want to partner with? Who do you want to show that we're in this thing together? This isn't, you need to do. Let's work together and do it. And to me, Zach Tom is the guy that they need to do that with. Mm-hmm. And if you want to continue to, battle it out and let guys play 4 years and let them go, a la Runyon and what I believe will probably happen with Sean Ryan, that's part of the deal. It's not ideal, but it is part of the deal. When you bring a Banks in, like our guy Corthy just said on YouTube, it sends ripples through your ecosphere, and you have to understand that, and that's why I believe most general managers don't love doing it, because it creates hard feelings on the other side of it.
Right, and again, I do think it's important, because the reason why you pay Aaron Banks is because you missed on Josh Myers, right? You got 4 years out of him, but he was not worthy of an extension, so you don't keep him at center, right? So you sign Aaron Banks.
You could have got him back for $2 million and kept everybody at the same.
It's true. The reason why
But what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
That they needed to, that he believed they needed to upgrade in a big way.
Urgency, and when everybody was, ranting about, we're not urgent enough, the easy, cost-effective way would have been to just stand pat. Yep. So that's why it bothers me when people get on here and say, well, there's no urgency and there's none of this. You just paid a guy $19 million a year. You don't think that's urgent? When you could have just ran it back and let a guy and paid a guy you'd have paid Josh Myers $2 million to start at center this year. That's what the price tag, I believe, ended up being. $2.5 million.